I should have known that one day you would be haunting me as well.
Hello, welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for the support my videos have been getting, and I'm grateful for every comment you guys put down there. For future uploads, be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay a while here. Now, enough rambling, let's just jump right in. Alright, Beat Maddening Mode. What do I think of it? Well, before we do that, let's talk about what Maddening Mode offers in difficulty. So, in a nutshell, enemy stats are inflated to the brim, meaning you're going to get doubled quite a lot throughout the entire game. Not only that, there are a lot more enemies in the maps as well. EXP is cut in half, and that's pretty much the basic stuff you need to know about Maddening difficulty. So, it's really difficult to maintain levels throughout the early game and mid game. Reinforcements are same turn as well, so you can get punished quite easily in some maps. In a time skip, there are a lot of reinforcements in a time skip that can spawn out of nowhere and just kill your team members. Battalions and combat arts are quite useful in this mode, especially combat art like Hunter's Volley, learned from Sniper Mastery, Swift Strikes from A rank on Lance from certain units, Wind Sweep and Closer, and so on. Certain paralogs also get nice rewards as well, such as Lawrence Paralog with Thyrsis, Sadas map with the Spear of Vassal, and the Staff Ingrid's paralogs, and the Lance of Lewin from that map, and Galatea Pegasus Call, which grants a decent amount of avoidance if it's equipped. Now, there's a lot more I like to go about, but you get the point. The early game of Maddening isn't that bad once you learn how to calculate attacks and actually know how to analyze maps. It can be quite useful. So, what did I do before I kicked off a map? First, I go check the map. Check the details of the boss and regular units. This is crucial on Maddening, for me at least. Also check my unit's abilities, but you won't do this much until the mid game and around chapter 10 and onwards. Usually this transitions over to mastering classes. This is something that's funnily easier on Maddening, because in normal and hard mode you can run around most enemy units easily. On Maddening, you're likely to do that in the late game. As for the early game and mid game, one-shotting enemies or one-rounding them is quite rare. It is doable if you have like Lysithea, use Luna A, but that's a very specific example. So, abilities such as Death Blow from Brigand, Darting Blow from Pegasus Knight, and on preferably fast units like Ingrid, Petra, and Leonie, hit plus 20 on bow units from Mastering Archer. This is one of the best abilities or mastery abilities because there are a lot of enemies that are quite fast in the late game, like Sword Masters, Grapplers, Assassins especially, they're quite fast. But in a nutshell, there's a lot of game knowledge that you need to get a good understanding on beating Maddening. Now, I am not the wiki. There's still a lot of things I can learn from my Golden Deer Maddening run, but generally speaking, Maddening is a great time once you reach the mid game. Early game Maddening sucks, cause you have to rely on Byleth and your lord from your house, mostly. Chapter 5 is a slog to play through, and that's just bad game design for a high level difficulty. You have to turtle your way to the boss of that map, so let me explain. Gilbert has to die. Like, if you keep him alive, he will be in range of one of the fellow archers. Now this archer may not be much damage to Gilbert, but poison strikes, so that doesn't really matter. So the archer attacks Gilbert, and now every unit is triggered to go to your team. And then there's the reinforcements in the first few turns of the map, the ones in your starting position, and then the ones in the top right, the two thieves. Now they're not that bad if you have an armor knight and blue lions, you know, Hild as an armor knight, Claude as an archer, you know, they're not that bad. But on Black Eagles it can be quite tricky because you don't have the best units, but Freddy as an armor knight would be quite good. But tank some fast unit with good charm to avoid gambits, but it's Maddening, so you get overwhelmed mostly if you try to keep Gilbert alive. Now, if there's one thing that I recently learned, is that tea time is really crucial in the early game. Well, this is kind of like a me thing. I like to use tea time because if you get a perfect, your character gains some charm, and charm increases your avoid rate on gambits, and that's quite good in the early game because a lot of enemies have gambits. So tea time spamming is not bad inherently, and it's decent if you're trying to pick up another unit from a different house as well. But once you get to the early game, mid game is quite easy once you reach to your advanced classes, and the game will start to pick up and it's fun. You can have decent builds with your units once time skip starts. It's not bad, but chapter 14 is a nightmare in my opinion, and one of the more difficult tabs in the time skip. In all the routes, I've only done Golden Deer Maddening, and the late game is quite easy, I'll say, but in chapter 14, there's an infinite number of reinforcements. Now, hello, this is me in the future, so I'm going to explain the maps Unfortunately, I forgot to record the footage for it because I have to use I'm using the 30-second switch capture thing, and it's annoying to do because I forget often, especially when you're locked in on a difficulty such as Maddening. So I'm gonna do a different method of showcasing how I did stuff. So I'm gonna have to manually showcase it with my editing, and that's pretty much how it's gonna do. So I'm gonna call it my manual Fire Emblem grid thing. But back to the video. If you don't escort the green unit, you're basically done for. You're cooked, because you're gonna be overwhelmed by the amount of Falcon Knights. Sure, you can do it slowly but surely, but those Falcon Knights will overwhelm you because you have squishy units on your team, such as, you know, a healer, a dancer, or just someone who doesn't have high defense or speed in general. So you just have to make do with what you have. So take a green unit to that one tile, kill the grappler, take the green unit there, and the objective should just be to kill the boss and you're fine. That was the main way I was able to beat it. So slowly killed everything one by one and killed Randolph in that map. So chapter 14 is quite one of the most difficult maps on Maddening for me, at least. It was a hurdle. It took me 4 tries to beat that map because I tried to go for the route the enemy strategy, but it just did not work. So I mean, you just gotta go with the kill boss, and that's the thing with most time skip maps, is just kill the boss. So that's the thing about anything like in Maddening, you don't really need to worry that much about routing the enemy, because all you need to do is just beat the boss and you're fine. Like, you could be some maps in one turn, such as Ferdiad in Blue Lines, you know, you can easily beat that map in like 4 turns. It's not that hard. Another difficult map I'll say is N-Bar, which is quite difficult since you deal with the reinforcements in that map quite early. They spawn on turn 3 in enemy phase, meaning that the units down at the bottom go left. So you have 2 spawn positions. One is on the bottom of the map and one is on the top left of the map. The top left is fine if you have like a unit with good range, or Lysithea with Thyrsis and Valkyrie with additional magic range. But the bottom units, they must go left no matter what. Stride if you need to, but that's just me, you know. You have to go left. On Blue Lines is slightly different, and on Silver Snow is the same thing, because, you know, those routes are word for word, bar for bar, you know what I mean. Once I took care of those reinforcements, it wasn't that bad. You clean up the left side and then slowly make your way to the center, baiting the demonic beasts one by one. And Death Knight is not that hard to do. I bait him with Impregnable Wall and finished him off with Dark Spike's T from Lysithea. And by the way, Lysithea is a must pick up in any route. You don't really need her, but you can really use Swift Strikes from Spear Vassal to finish off Death Knight. But generally speaking, Lysithea can one-shot most units, especially if you're using like a class like Gramarye Valkyrie with the additional range. But Thyrsis does the job. You know, she's just a magic sniper or a magic bow knight, you know, so pick whatever you prefer. Now, the reason why I bait Death Knight is because he's standing on a stronghold tile, granting him extra avoidance, 70 avoidance, which is quite iffy if I want to get his Swift Strikes or Night Kneeler from any unit. If the unit attacking him has high dexterity, you can maybe get away with it, but it's Maddening Mode, so anything is possible. And Death Knight has a really good crit rate, especially, you know, around 30. So the weapon he wields is like a killer lance plus, you know. So just be sure to not play around with him. Just Dark Spikes him or Night Kneeler with Lance of Ruin or Spear of Vassal, one of those 2 options. Also, for Lysithea, if you want to use a great Lysithea, really good Lysithea, Valkyrie's one of the best classes you can give her. The reason why is because mastering that class gives you Uncanny Blow. Basically, on player phase, if you use Lysithea, she will have a hit rate increased by 30. So it's hit plus 20, but, you know, hit plus 30, and it's only on player phase. So that's pretty much it. So also spammed Enclosure with Claude, since Enclosure prevents an enemy unit from moving. So it was quite nice since Claude could not double that much unless you use the Brave Bow. Edelgard's castle was surprisingly easy in the first few turns of the map. They were tricky, but once I made it to the bottom and slowly cleaned the right side of the map and made my way towards Edelgard, I made sure to equip Blessing in case I got critted. So finishing her off was quite easy, and Lysithea finished her off, which just makes sense. And in that map, I can attack with bows without much worry, since Most units are not snipers, they're sword masters, grapplers, warriors, which are quite easy to, finish off because you can use axe breaker, sword breaker. From the grapplers, just use a tanky unit or a fast unit who can dodge them easily. However, the next map, Shambhala, this is one of the worst maps on Maddening Mode. Not for its difficulty, because of how long and tedious this map is. While the map itself is not that difficult, regrouping is a pain to do and the Titanists are bulky in physical defense. Lysithea can nuke them quite easily, but she's a glass cannon and can't rely on her that often because of the limited space. Once you take care of all that though, the moment you open the door, you must kill the boss immediately. He isn't that bad to kill, but he ended up critting my build as I did not think I needed to use blessing, so that happened. For the final map of Golden Deer, honestly it was quite difficult. There was a lot of enemies going after you in the first few turns of the map, but once I took care of those, I went over to this mage on the right side of the map and he spawns demonic beast, so killing him stops all reinforcements. Now this is the final map where the least reinforcements spawn in, and none can spawn in if you are fast enough. Next, I take care of the 10 elites one by one, since there are 2 snipers with ballistas that are quite annoying with the swamp as well. This is restricting to deal with, but while playing the map I noticed something about Maddening and this map. The ballista targets a weaker unit most of the time, and Leone is my tankiest unit on this team, so I tried to put Leone in range of one of the 10 elites. Alois gets in range of the ballista on only one of them, and while Leone deals with the elite, this way I can bait with Alois to take care of the sniper with Leone. This is going to change the left side significantly, while doing the same thing with the right side ballista. Violet takes care of Lamine, the mage that creates the swamp. Once you finish the bolting mage off, you have Fraudarius and Regan left. Now before you do that, there's one more thing preventing us from handling the 2. In Maddening Mode specifically, there is a mage with a move called Borax. Now this move is lethal. It doesn't necessarily one-shot any unit, but no matter what defense / res you have, it will leave any unit with 1 HP. Just in case I can't tank with 4 different units, but that's wasting healing. Now, once I take care of Regan and Fraudarius, which are quite easy by the way, because Regan has an awful hit rate, I'm not gonna lie, for Maddening Mode. But Nemesis is right there in the final battle of Maddening Mode. Now, Nemesis stats are quite buffed up, like you could think he's on steroids. Now, Nemesis here, he has quite dangerous abilities. He can crit easily, so there's a few strategies you can do. You can save your blessing, just put it for your best units, or bait with impregnable wall, fight with a gambit, have a unit with Kanto that can move in and out, with Claude or Leone, but unfortunately Leone cannot damage Nemesis. Hilda, with her relic, she can do some damage, but it's a difficult way to approach Nemesis, considering most of my team can't even damage him. Like, most of the game I use Shamir Hunter's Volley, Leone Point Blank Volley, Sylvain Swift Strikes, and Seta Swift Strikes as well. But those units could not damage him because Nemesis' defense was too high. So there was a few things I could do. Chip him enough to where Lysithea can finish him off, or hope for a crit, go out, cancel, move back, and Byleth luckily got a crit. So this enables Alois to finish him off. Now, either 1-2 punch or War Master Strike. So I went with War Master Strike for the better hit rate and damage, and Alois finishes him off. And I won Maddening Mode for the first time. Maddening Mode is honestly great. While the early game can be a slog to go through, especially chapter 5, it starts to pick up slowly but surely. The customization is limitless, and you can make anyone a monster in this game if you solo. Hard and normal mode are brain dead easy, to me at least. I'm speaking for myself here, not for everyone. Now, the reason I say this is because there's a lot more room for error in normal and hard mode. I got very bored of the game. But in Maddening, I remember playing the mock battle, realizing the unfairness. I was appalled once I got to chapter 5. I had no tank and was not strong, so I gave up, and that was 3 years ago. That was the same save file I did on my recent Crimson Flower video. I reverted to hard mode and finished that way. Years later, I came back to play 3 houses and enjoyed the final map on Crimson Flower. I was actually playing carefully, even wanted to take a lot of risks here and there. Once I did Crimson Flower and the duo run for my Blue Lions video, I was like, you know what? It's time I do Maddening. I started with Golden Deer, and I'd argue it's the least stressful route on Maddening because of Claude and Lysithea in-house. You get the point. So there was a hurricane going down in my area as well, so my area was the city without light. See what I did there? So I thought if I can't work or anything on my PC, I might as well play Maddening Mode and found myself enjoying the difficulty and challenges in the maps. So these chapters suck: Chapter 5, Chapter 7, Chapter 13, and Chapter 21 on Golden Deer. The rest are fine, and the final map is the final map, so I was expecting it to be genuinely challenging. In your Maddening run, there's a lot of planning that goes ahead into the unit, and some don't start well, such as my Leonie. She had a terrible strength as a Pegasus Knight, only 9 at level 16. But once she leveled up to level 20 and got advanced bases, she was doing quite amazing. Honestly, my best unit in my team. The reason why she was so good late game is because of her speed and physical defense. If it wasn't for that, she would have been benched 100%, and not every unit goes out as planned, but a nice death blow and darting blow can patch them right up, and you're good to go. Overall, Maddening Mode is something I recommend giving a shot and trying. I wasn't the most knowledgeable in 3 houses, but I got tips and help from some good people on Discord, and I'm grateful for the help I received. Don't be ashamed to ask for help or look things up occasionally. Once you get the hang of Maddening, that's when it becomes fun. The next hardest challenge I can do is an Iron Man, basically no rewind or soft resetting on maps. So I have to work with terrible level ups I am given occasionally, but hey, pick whatever route you'd like to start off Maddening and try. I understand people aren't willing to try out hard difficulties in video games, and that's okay. Play however you'd like. Hell, I ain't ashamed to admit that I played normal casual for the first time ever in 3 houses. I ain't dunking on those who play easy difficulty in games, but I highly encourage you to try Maddening and understand the game's ins and outs. There's a lot more I'd like to say, but I gotta finish Silver Snow for my next video on this game, and since it's the same as Golden Deer, I honestly didn't feel like continuing it. If I'm honest, but I heard Funeral of Flowers again, and I was like, alright, fine. I'll finish the route only for the final map. But that's all I have to say, and again, thank you for so much for the tremendous support on my videos I've been getting. Like, subscribe, and as always, enjoy yourselves, and have a good one.